History 102, Lecture 8, World War II. This video, we're going to focus on the Holocaust. By way of introduction, I used to teach, I've been a college teacher for 23 years. I used to teach World War II chronologically like normal, like everyone else does. The problem is World War II is too big of a subject to cover really well. Several years ago, in 2019, I decided to pick two topics and focus on them. And, students can read or go to other resources for other stuff. But I picked two topics of interest, also importance, that I wanted to go over with students. So I created a new lecture for World War II in 2019, the spring of 2019 to be exact, where I focused on the Holocaust and Japanese-American internment. So since 2019, that's been my World War II lecture. I focused on those two topics, and students are interested in other topics can, go elsewhere, like read the book or, or talk to me personally and talk about it. But anyways, so the feedback I've gotten from this is good. Over the years, I've gotten some good feedback, so I've continued to do it. So this part of the video, this video is going to be on the Holocaust. Then I'm going to do a second video on Japanese American internment. So this is Lecture 8. This is World War II. So the Holocaust. So the first thing is, what are some issues with studying, discussing, talking about the Holocaust? Number one, it is a highly emotional topic. So that's the first issue. When if you're trying to study history rationally, reasonably, neutral or balanced or whatever way, the Holocaust is it's difficult because it's a highly emotional topic. Number two, the World War II era is leaving our living memory. People, like 1939 was almost 100 years ago. I mean, the youngest people that would remember the Holocaust, the Holocaust or World War II in general, the youngest people, so people born in, like, say, 1940, so by the time they were 5, World War II ended. So, people born about 1940 would be about the youngest people that would have some memory of World War II. So if you were born in 1940, you're what? I'm not a math major, but 83, 60, yeah. So the youngest people that would remember anything about World War II are in their early to mid 80s. I mean, World War II is leaving our living memory. What that means is no one alive on the planet Earth right now would remember an event. So, for example, World War I, the Civil War, the United States Civil War, that's out of living memory. No one on planet Earth right now, that's alive on planet Earth right now, lived during and or remembers the Civil War. It happened too long ago, right? The oldest people on the planet are like 121. I think the oldest person on the planet right now is like 122. 121, 122. So 122 years ago was like 1900, 1902. So World War I hasn't exactly left our living memory. There are people that are 110, 120 still around. They would remember it, right? So World War II is leaving our living memory. The other issue about the Holocaust is most of our education, and mine too, most of our education on the Holocaust is emotional rather than academic. And if you're wanting to study a topic academically or rationally, or like, what do the primary documents say? A lot of our education that is emotional. One thing I tell my students on campus, I saw my first Holocaust survivor when I was I think it was 7 or 8. I was in 2nd grade. I saw a Holocaust survivor and heard their story barely, because I had hearing problems, and my memory of the person, he had a pretty thick accent, and so I had trouble understanding him. I also have hearing issues, so I was across the library pit, friends. Anyway, so I encountered a Holocaust survivor before I knew what World War II was. I learned about the Holocaust, and about the same time I found out, there's a religion called Judaism. There are Jewish people who are members of a religion called Judaism. I found out at the same time. I didn't know what a Jew was. I didn't know what a Jewish person was. I was 7. I'd never heard of that before. So, So, usually our education on the Holocaust is emotional. It's also sometimes not in context. You learn about things before you... I met a Holocaust survivor before I knew who Adolf Hitler, World War II was. It was during that era when I was 7, 8 that I learned, one of my 3 of my 4 grandpas actually served in World War II. So a lot of our education is based on emotion rather than academic. And to be honest, so that was the main reason why I set up this lecture this way, is I want to give students an academic understanding. Right? One of the reasons why a lot of people or a lot of students are afraid to talk to somebody who doesn't think the Holocaust happened is people who don't think the Holocaust happened, they know, they've studied the primary document. They reject all the emotional evidence and study primary documents, kind of a thing. They interpret them differently, but you get it. If all of your education on the Holocaust is emotional and nothing on academics, a researcher or a person or a researcher doesn't think the Holocaust happened or was exaggerated, they studied the document. They have an academic understanding of the Holocaust. They reject all the emotional evidence, and so it's one reason why you're afraid, or you don't want to talk to somebody who doesn't think the Holocaust happened, because you're not armed. You're not armed with the tools, because anything you say to somebody who doesn't think the Holocaust happened, anything you say that's an emotional Holocaust survivor, movies, pictures, immediately rejected. And so this is the biggest reason why I wanted to talk about, have this as a lecture, is my goal is to give students an academic understanding. And that way you can discuss the issue intelligently. You can discuss the issue, and have some understanding of what the issues are. Another issue with the Holocaust is there are some that equate legitimate academic questions with Holocaust denial or anti-Semitism. This is a highly emotional topic, and so some people don't want any questions asked about it. You're just supposed to believe and think the Holocaust happened, no questions asked. So any questions are viewed fearfully. And that's another issue. That's another, it is one of the reasons I'm a teacher, one of the reasons I believe in teaching and I like to teach, is one of my foundational philosophical beliefs is questions are okay. Right? So one thing I want my students to come out of a history class with me is questions are okay. If you're not allowed to question something, that's a problem. Whether it's science, religion, language, history, culture, the recipe for your grandma's stew, whatever. Okay, so that's one of the other reasons why I do this lecture is to talk about the academics, but it's okay to ask questions. It is okay to study something. All right. And then the next issue, freedom of speech or academic freedom in the study of history. The Holocaust is a historical topic that it is difficult to talk about because we all know that there's things you can't say. You know, regardless of how true or not they are. And so that's the other issue. You know, we all know, you know, that I'm not going to say or I can't say certain things to you. And so there's censorship. We're not allowed to ask certain questions and why, kind of a thing. And so that's another issue when you study the Holocaust. We all kind of know going in that, you just got to think a certain way. I'll give you an example. For example, in some European countries like Germany, you can go to jail. They will put you in jail for using your freedom of speech, which apparently you don't have. You cannot write a book, article, speak publicly, write an article, or write a book which says the Holocaust is either exaggerated or didn't happen. The government will literally put you in jail. Okay? And I, as a civil libertarian, as a freedom of speech guy, I find that horrific. The idea that you can be put in jail for having a socially incorrect opinion, that completely horrifies me. But anyway, so there's some issues, that and here in America we have cancel culture. That bothers me. Where people say, I disagree with this, therefore you should not have a job, or you shouldn't be able to make a living. Or we should kill you. Here in America, we have cancel culture, which I find abhorrent as well. And it doesn't matter what the opinion is. I know we generally think, oh well, you're okay with your team doing it. Cancel culture, boycotts. Anyway, it just bothers me. Anyways, so that's another issue when you study the Holocaust. You get into freedom of speech issues because we all know, regardless of truth or regardless of anything, there are socially acceptable answers that have to be said. Kind of thing. I'll give you another example. That the socially acceptable thing that you have to believe the Holocaust happened, or you'll have your life destroyed. Whenever I'm online on social media, or I meet somebody in person that doesn't think the Holocaust happened, guess what they think? Okay? Their attitude towards me is, Mr. Bills, I know you know the Holocaust didn't happen, but you have to say otherwise or you'll be fired. Or you'll go to jail. So that's the problem with silencing opposing points of view, is people that have that point of view. Whenever I meet somebody online or in line that doesn't think the Holocaust happened, and they know I'm a history teacher, that's literally what they think, and they say that to me. They think that I know the Holocaust didn't happen, but I can't say it because I'll get fired. You get it? So even if I tell somebody that doesn't think that I'm a history teacher and I think the Holocaust happened, they think I'm lying, because we all know there's things you can't say or you'll get in trouble, and so I'm literally called a liar. Because they go, well, Mr. Bills, we know you know the Holocaust didn't happen, but you've got to say so to give your job. It doesn't matter how much I protest. I can swear to God, and they don't believe me. They don't believe. But we know you're lying. We know you have to lie to keep your job. So that's the problem with censorship and all that. There's a lack of trust. Like, for example, if there's somebody listening to this video that doesn't think the Holocaust happened, you probably could be sitting there going, I know Mr. Beale doesn't think the Holocaust happened. He has to lie to give his job. Right? Doesn't matter how much they protest. But anyways, so there's all kinds of issues dealing with the Holocaust. So the emotional question is, did the Holocaust happen? Okay. The academic question is, at any time between 1933 and 1945, was it German government policy to exterminate the Jewish population in Europe? And that's what we're going to talk about. You've had an emotional education. Okay. I'm not going to show video clips. I'm not going to show movies. I'm not going to show pictures. We're not going to see any of that. This is purely academic, because that's what you need. You don't need an emotional education in the Holocaust. You get it. That's all. That's for most of us, including me, even. Right. And so that's what we're studying, really. You know, at any time when the National Socialist German Workers' Party was in power in Germany, did it become German government policy to exterminate the Jewish population in Europe? The secondary question that historians argue about is, was there a master plan by National Socialists to exterminate the Jewish population in Europe in the 20s, 1933, or did the idea of getting rid of the final solution, getting rid of the Jewish population in Europe, did that come about later on, like through World War II? And then the second secondary question that historians argue about is, did the orders for the final solution come from above? Like Hitler, is there a document where Hitler says, "Dear SS, dear German people, whatever, kill the Jews, let Hitler"? Okay, is there a primary document that says that, or is it from below? Did German bureaucrats, knowing the National Socialist vision, did they implement the final solution of the Jewish question in Europe? Okay. So really quick, not really quick, but I want to review some Holocaust revisionist arguments. One of the reasons you're afraid of talking to people that don't think the Holocaust happened is, one, you don't have an academic education. Two, you're afraid that their arguments may sound reasonable, and you won't have enough of an education to go, oh, well, not exactly correct. So I'm going to go over that for you now. So how did this come about? So I was in college before I found out that some people don't think the Holocaust happened. I was in a college class. I took a class, History of the Jews. It was one of my college history classes, History of the Jews. Day one, first day, the teacher, the instructor, he was kind of going over what we were going to talk about in the class, and he kind of in passing said, and of course we'll study the Holocaust, which some people didn't think happened, but it was kind of an offhand comment, we would talk about the Holocaust, and that just floored me. I was 22, 23, 22, 23 or something. And just teacher just offhand, the people don't think the Holocaust happened. I was floored. What do you mean the Holocaust didn't happen? Well, I mean, you might as well tell me the sun doesn't shine at noonday or that Dr. Pepper is gross. I was like, it just blew me away. Okay. And so for my semester paper, I wanted to study that. I asked the professor, I said, for my semester paper, I want to study this. What do you mean? People didn't think, I was like immediately peaked. I was like, what? And I wanted to study it. I was like, I've got to hear this. It's one of the reasons why Ancient Aliens is one of my favorite TV shows. When I first heard about it, I was like, I got to hear this. So, anyways, Ancient Aliens is one of my favorite TV shows. When I first heard about it, I was like, I've got to hear it, please. So, the same thing with the Holocaust reviews. I spent the semester reading Holocaust revisionist books, articles, papers. And so I'm going to summarize the arguments for you, and you need to be armed with them so you can deal with them, right? Because, like I said, one of your fears is you could talk to a Holocaust revisionist. If they sound reasonable, well, you're in trouble. And that's the thing, and that's the other thing. Holocaust revisionists you read something, they sound reasonable. They're just arguments. So I can cause you fear, right? Number one, it was never official German government policy to exterminate the Jewish population in Europe. That's just flat out the main argument. So the academic question is, was it ever a policy between 33 and 45? It's just a flat out, well, no. And there is a lack of explicit German government primary documents on that. There's no documents that say, yes, we are trying to murder every Jew we get our hands on. We're trying to exterminate the Jewish population in Europe. And so there's no explicit, the lack of explicit. So when you study the primary documents, you have to look for other clues. Like, for example, when you study German government records in the 1930s and 40s, especially as you get into the 1940s, they talk about the final solution to the Jewish question in Europe a lot. What is the final solution to the Jewish question in Europe, right? Well, what have Europeans tried to do with their Jewish populations up to the 20th century? They exiled them, told them to get out. They forced them to convert or get out. They segregated them in ghettos. They discriminated against them. But Jews are still here. Okay? You've tried, but has it worked? We're in the 20th century, and National Socialists say, listen, Europeans, we've tried everything. We've exiled them, forced them to convert, ghettoized them, segregated them, discriminated against them. They're still here. And so National Socialist candidates offered the final solution to the Jewish question in Europe. And so you understand what that term means. Well, we've tried everything else. What's the one thing that Europeans have not tried in 1,500 years of European history in dealing with Jews? Well, the only thing you haven't tried is, exterminating the Jewish population in Europe. And so, so while it is true that there is a lack of explicit, hey, we're going to get rid of the Jewish population in Europe, you read between the lines, you read for clues. When a National Socialist says the phrase, we are researching or studying or we want to implement the final solution to the Jewish population in Europe, okay, they don't mean exile the Jews, have them moved somewhere else. That's already been tried. They don't mean, segregate the Jews in ghettos. They've already done that. There's only one thing you haven't done. That's round up Jews and murder them. And so, the next Holocaust revisionist argument is Jewish depopulation in Europe due to emigration and the general loss of life during World War II. And so, when you study population statistics, there is a decline. It is established by research documentation. There were less Jews in Europe after World War II than before. So you can't deny that. You've got to go with that. There are less Jews in Europe after World War II. And it is true a lot of Jews did leave. A lot of Jews did leave Germany and try to leave Europe during National Socialist Germany. Okay. And yes, it is true. A lot of people died because of World War II. Okay. But that's not the issue. The issue isn't a bunch of Jews died. The issue is, did the German government have a policy of specifically targeting the Jewish population in Europe? We all know, yes, a lot of people died in World War II, and a lot of Jews died in World War II. A lot of other people did too. The question is, was the Jewish population targeted not for other reasons other than just, hey, we're trying to kill enemy combatants. Okay. Another argument that you hear a lot about when you read Holocaust revisionist arguments is the German military did not carry out the Holocaust. And this is where you run into trouble. That's factually correct. The SS engineered the final solution. So that's actually factually correct. So if you don't know the academics and you hear that the German military did not carry out the Holocaust, well, that's correct. So not everything a Holocaust revisionist says is an out-and-out lie or incorrect or wrong. And that's what makes people uncomfortable. Holocaust revisionist books they do state the truth on some things. They misinterpret other things. Okay, that is true. The German military, the Wehrmacht, they were fighting a war. Okay, when you read the primary documents, German military officers and generals repeatedly refused to participate in rounding up Jews. They're like, we're fighting a war. The final solution is a political objective. The German military, the Wehrmacht, they had a military objective: defeat the British, French, and Russians. They generally resisted efforts at the political solution. There are primary documents of German officers saying, wait till we win the war to solve political problems. The final solution is a political goal that National Socialists have. The Wehrmacht constantly pushed back, going, listen, you gave us a military objective. You got us into a war. Okay, thank you. Another Holocaust revisionist argument is the story of the Holocaust was made up to spur European U.S. support for the creation of the State of Israel, like after the war. Holocaust stories are Allied propaganda to spur, we've got to fight the war of Germans. This is how bad the Germans are. And where you run into trouble on that, there are stories of German bad things that the Germans did that actually aren't true. And so the problem is that gives Holocaust credence, because and that's the other thing, you don't want to make up stuff. Here, this is how bad the Nazis were. They did all these things. There is no need to exaggerate or embellish anything. And so the problem is that sometimes happens. One of the most famous examples is a story started circulating after the war that the National Socialist concentration camp guards used human Jewish skin to make a lampshade. And there was actually a lampshade produced. Say this is it. Well, when DNA testing came around, they tested that lampshade. It wasn't human DNA. It wasn't human skin. It was actually from a cow. It was like from a cow. And so I would encourage you as a student to, you don't need to embellish. You don't need to prove how bad the Nazis were by making stuff up or saying that they did all these crazy things, because that plays into the hands of Holocaust revisionist arguments. There are some things that are attached to national that didn't happen or aren't correct, just because we want to show how bad Hitler was. Well, that hurts your argument. And so when you read some Holocaust revisionist arguments and books and stuff, they'll bring up those false stories, those things that aren't actually true, and to them it lends credence to their idea that the Holocaust didn't happen. So I would encourage you as a student and a person, there's no need to make stuff up or make Hitler look worse. Just say the factual things. There's no need to embellish. There's no need to exaggerate. Just say what actually happened. Okay. Another story that's been debunked over the years is that the Nazis made soap out of deceased Jewish people. That actually has never been proven conclusively. That's a possible fake story. Okay, You know, just, things are bad enough. You don't need to exaggerate stories. Okay. So anyway, so that's important. So as it meant to demonize Germany, we got to make the Germans look as bad as possible. So you don't need to make National Socialists appear worse. Just say what happened. Numbers are fake; they're exaggerated. So this is maybe the best Holocaust revisionist argument because yes, numbers are an estimate. The German government did keep track. German concentration camps, they did keep track numerically of numbers. Some historians question, and even historians who believe the Holocaust happened, question whether some commandants of concentration camps exaggerated numbers to look good. Okay. You had the chaos of World War II. Okay. Millions were dead, millions missing, millions of people moving, refugees, people moving all over the place. Okay. Is it possible that the number is not exact? 6 million. We get kind of that number drilled into our heads. 6 million. Okay. The first book on Holocaust revisionism is actually called The 6 Million Hoax. That's actually the title, because that's the main attack and probably the best critique of the Holocaust. The Holocaust revision is the number. It is an estimate. Okay, it might not be 6 million. It could be more. And that's just kind of funny. It's like, it's got to be less. It could be more, but so that is true. And so the issue there though is, what counts as the Holocaust? Okay, fine. 6 million on a Holocaust is 3 million, is 2 million. Yeah. Oh, sorry, 1,999,999 people died. Sorry, not Holocaust. And you get into reducing human beings to a numbers game where, to be a Holocaust, this many people have had to have died. So, is the number 6 million that's put into our head our whole life? Is it exactly God's honest truth of the exact number? Sure, it's an estimate. Holocaust revisionists always go, well, it's obviously less. It leaves open the other question, could be more. I mean, and yes, that 6 million, there are other people. There are other groups of people that the National Socialist government of Germany targeted. Gypsies, other people. And so Jews are just the biggest topic, the sexiest topic, but they targeted a bunch of groups. Okay. But so I caution against reducing human beings to a number and going, oh well, only 3 million people died. Oh well, then it was a Holocaust. So I was cautioning against that. The next argument: the story of the Holocaust diverts from other real issues such as the Soviet army mass raping, treatment of German military post-war, forced deportation or ethnic cleansing of Germans after World War II. And this is another issue. If you do not have an academic understanding of the Holocaust and the post-World War II period, this looks like a really good argument too for Holocaust revisionists. Because all those stories are true. The Soviet military raped its way to Berlin. I mean, they just did. That is factual. When the Soviet army was fighting its way to Berlin, they mass raped. I mean, that is factual. That is documented factual. Okay. Treatment of German military POWs post-war. Yes. Were German POWs treated nicely after the war? No. They were treated poorly. I mean, part of you've got to ask, well, what do you expect? But yeah, they were mistreated. Does that mean the Holocaust didn't happen? Or does it just mean, well, everyone's human? And of course, it's completely rational. Well, yeah, you just beat them in a war, and you're going to be a little mad. Forced deportation or ethnic cleansing of Germans from some countries in post-World War II. So this is absolutely factual. It's kind of one of the least known things talked about the post-war period. A lot of historians ignore it. A lot of people ignore it. Holocaust revisionists focus on it. This is probably why it gets ignored, but it is factual. After World War II, several European countries like Poland, Poland was number one. Poland, Czechoslovakia, some European countries and areas, parts of Russia, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, told their German population to get out. I mean, that is factual. That's true. There was ethnic cleansing of Germans from some European countries, like Poland. Poland had just been through a 5-6 year war with Germany. Yeah, they were like, yeah, we don't want any Germans there. Please leave. Again, and that's the thing, though. Does that prove the Holocaust didn't happen? No, that just proves that, this is correct. And so some Holocaust revisionist arguments are deflections rather than actual arguments. Like, the Soviet Army mass raping its way through World War II doesn't prove the Holocaust didn't happen. It just proves that the Soviet Army raped, The fact that German POWs were treated poorly after World War II doesn't mean, not an argument for the Holocaust not happening. It's a deflection. It's a completely different topic. Some European countries told the German population to get out. And in some places where they weren't necessarily told to get out, yes, there was poor treatment of Germans in some areas after World War II. Right? So that doesn't mean the Holocaust didn't happen. Kind of a thing. And so those are some Holocaust revisionist arguments. I'm going to stop the video now and do another part, just because this is kind of long.